Hi, I'm Pat, and I'm 73.
What is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen?
The land. We tend to take the train as opposed to flying, so you get to see our country from wheels down, and being able to take a cruise up to Alaska or to Hawaii and being able to see the creation that God has given us to live within.
What is your favorite part about being a senior?
Opportunities, especially since, I'm retired, so I have a little more time, and I can volunteer and do whatever I want to do, and it gives me a chance to work with Celebrating Seniors, which I think is a fantastic program.
Have you ever lost someone close to you, and how did you cope with that challenge?
At my age, definitely. Probably the hardest one was my dad. In 1948, my father came down with a paralyzing disease. He was totally paralyzed, could not walk, could not move his hands. They knew what the disease was. They also knew that nobody ever lived from it. And my father had a very firm faith in God. The day before, he asked St. Joseph, he developed shingles all over his body, which if anybody that's had shingles knows it's a pretty nasty thing. They can diagnose it, they can't cure it. He said, I need a sign. Am I going to get well or am I going to die? And the next day the shingles disappeared, and he sat up and started getting well. 28 years later, when my father died, and I was only 35 at the time, my mother had an autopsy done. And the doctor came out and had this piece of paper in front of him and said, your husband died of a very unusual disease. And my mother looked right at him and said, periarteritis nodosa? And the doctor said, how did you know? She said, well, he had it 28 years ago. The doctor said, that's not possible. So, yes, I lost him, and yes, it was devastating to lose him because he was a very wonderful person. He had so much wisdom and he was so gentle and so caring. But to realize that I wouldn't have had him for 28 years had God not given me that gift.
Think about the most difficult time in your life. Is there any advice you would give somebody else going through a similar situation?
Getting fired occasionally, but that's kind of awful too, but you go through that.
If someone just got fired,
okay,
what advice would you give them to help them get through that hard time?
Take a couple of minutes and take a deep breath, because things will get better. And you have gifts and you have talents, and you just need to bring those out to the next person that wants to hire you. And you can't let it devastate you completely. It just, you can make it, you can do it.
Who is the person that has influenced your life the most?
Probably my dad, because I had all that time with him and saw him struggle through being able to walk again, being able to use his hands again, and all that he did and all that he went through, and just being the wonderful person that he was. Even though I didn't have a lot of time with him, he still is to some extent there with me.
What do you feel is your greatest accomplishment?
What I've been able to do in the area of working with older adults, even from my earliest occupation straight through what I'm doing now, just helping make life better for older people, including me.
What's one thing about this life you wish you understood more clearly?
Is there an afterlife, I suppose? That's probably the one thing we really don't have any way of knowing until we get there. And it's a little scary and interesting at the same time. So yeah, I suppose that would be it. Is there an afterlife, and what is it going to be like? Are we going to be reunited with all those loved ones that have gone ahead of us?
If you could share some words of wisdom with every young person on the planet, what would you share with them?
Sit down and talk to any old relative who's still around and get the stories. Absolutely. Sit down and listen, ask questions. Don't just get the names and the dates, but find out the stories behind the names and dates, because someday you're going to want to know those things.
What do you want to be known for?
Being a caring individual, I guess. Just that I cared, that what I did in life made a difference in other people's lives. That's probably the best thing you could ever have said about you.
In your opinion, what is the meaning of this life?
We're put here to help others. I guess that's the main thing. And we do what we can do. We use the gifts that God has given us, and we build on them and try to help others.